Storytime with Andy and Amanda.
Okay, Amanda, what are we doing today?
We're doing Storytime, episode 16.
Storytime with Andy and Amanda.
Yeah.
And what's the bad news this month, Amanda?
We've lost our guest.
Yeah, I guess we're not going today, but it's ill, unfortunately. So it's just me and Amanda today. So be grateful. We always, that's the point behind Storytime, is like, if we, obviously, some episodes, we will have guests, and other times we won't. So today's episode without a guest, Amanda, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what is Storytime with Andy and Amanda?
It's just a storytelling podcast where you tell stories or poems or any other thing that you want to tell.
Yeah, that's true. So, and how many pieces are we both doing today?
Well, technically I'm doing 2, but one's in 2 parts.
Yeah. Okay then. So I'm doing 3 and you're doing, should we say 2.5 then, should we say? That's probably the best way of putting it, isn't it? So now, obviously, who is Amanda Nicholson?
Your wife.
What is Amanda Nicholson most famous for? People that have heard this podcast before? Apart from being a sarky Yorkshire kid.
Not very much.
But I'm obviously Andy and I do ambient music and then Motion of the Buckle and a couple of poetry books. We both co-host Cholton Come Hard. He's always welcoming spoken word over might not speak easy, don't we?
Yeah.
And what else have you done under as well?
I've written books as Amanda Steele.
Yeah, and that's an alias. Was that the best way to put it, dear?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so as well. So, but anyway, of course, now story time. Ladies first.
Okay. So I'm going to begin by reading the first half of a short story I wrote, and it's called Day of the Cats. The day the cats took over began like any other day. Not many people even noticed at first. I woke up, went to work, and went through emotions just like every other Monday. Of course, this is now called Meow Day, but because it was still called Monday back then, I'll refer to it as such. As I boarded the bus to go home, that's when I noticed it. Well, I noticed something was different, but I didn't know exactly what had happened. The bus was full of elderly ladies, presumably on their way back from the 2-for-1 bingo special which happened nearby every month without fail, so that wasn't the strange part. They all had the cat sitting on their laps. I thought that was pretty strange. Maybe the bingo hall had some promotion involving cats, I thought. Perhaps 3 games of bingo for the price of 1 if you bring a cat. Who was I to judge? Each of these women had worked all their lives and were now enjoying themselves in an albeit strange pastime involving cats and bingo. I sat next to one lady and said, "Nice cat." They ran out of money at the bingo hall, so we all got a cat into the cash prizes, she told me. She began sneezing before I could think of a suitable reply. "Are you okay?" I asked after the 10th sneeze. "Sorry, allergies." "Then surely a cat isn't—" She put her finger to her lips to shush me, then pointed at the cat's ears. Surely she wasn't suggesting he could hear and understand us. I smiled politely and stared straight ahead, as was the unspoken custom when discovering the person you were sitting next to on the bus was a few sandwiches short of a picnic. That's when all the cats, which were still sitting on the elderly lady's laps, began to meow in unison. It was a tune, and I felt myself swaying slowly from side to side before I snapped myself out of it. I could have convinced myself it had been a long day at work and my imagination was playing tricks on me, but all the cats had their necks twisted in an unusual position so they could stare at me. Again, I stared straight ahead. There was no unspoken custom on what to do when a lot of cats were staring at you on the bus, but I thought the same approach of staring ahead would be my best option. I was a few stops away from home, but something told me I wouldn't make it that far. I assumed at the time this was my instincts, but I now know it was the cats themselves speaking directly into my mind. I recalled an uneaten tuna sandwich in my bag, and the bus approached the next stop. I pulled the sandwich from my bag with one hand and pressed the bell with the other. As cats leaped from the laps they had all been sitting on and screeched at each other, all fighting for a bite of my mouldy sandwich, I made my escape. They all seemed to realise what had happened after I escaped and watched the bus continue down the road. I saw their angry, furry faces all pressed up against the back window of the bus, with teeth bared in snarls, which I also heard inside my mind. I ran all the way home and was greeted by my dog Bernie, who jumped around, not in his usual state of joy at seeing me, but in agitation. After locking the door, I followed him to the back of the house where a few dozen cats were scratching at the glass panelled doors. I can't tell you whether these were the same cats from the bus or more of them, but that's not important. They were climbing on each other's backs, reaching with clawed paws at the handles. Obviously, the doors remained closed, but even without their threats transmitted to my head, I would have known they'd find a way inside.
Fantastic. Now, obviously, I've heard the full video on this before now, but where did the origins of the story come from, Amanda?
There was a submission call, and it was about cats taking over the world and science fiction story, and that's what I came up with, and it got rejected.
Yeah, but it's interesting, really. When you did this over at Speakeasy, obviously our spoken word open mic night in Johnson, you got an exceptionally good response on that, didn't you, at the time?
Yeah.
So I think you were a bit stunned by that, weren't you, really, as well?
Yeah, I think it's the best response I've had to anything that I've read out.
No, it's not. Yeah, I can inform what you for 10 minutes of Keith upon got like in a certain night doesn't exist anymore, right? Well, I think we're all dirty swines, mind you, weren't they? So,
Yeah.
but it's a great piece. So, watch out. Part 2 will follow shortly, won't it? So, okay. Whose turn is it now?
You're next.
Am I definitely next, am I? First I've heard of our next number in this piece. Okay, seriously. Right, mine's a response to submission call as well. That's project that Melwater Woodend's got going on at the moment. And this is about to close, I think the closing date anyway, so time this goes out, it would have passed. But it was a poem that I wanted to ask you a program about eco issues, and you also know what eco issues are, don't you? So, yeah. This one came off in response to an article that was in the Guardian newspaper back in January, actually. So, January this year, and very detailed in Alaska, where there's been, unfortunately, the first attack by polar bears on humans in over 30 years. This, unfortunately, very graphic stories happened there, but see what we think of it. Leaving the lands to science. First attack in 30 years, the report said. It was the first time that polar bears had attacked humans, killing both a mother and son in a near-deserted part of Alaska, mauling them both next to a snowdrift near darkness, forcing everybody else backwards into their houses and the nearby school in terror. They may have been scissored out from regular feeding haunts, some scientists proclaimed, launching them in hunger, their claws lightning in the wind, incumbent an unknown motive. They may have been drawn out and carried on rusting through papers, owing to changes in the sea and global warming running wild, melting the layers of snow, forcing them south for food. Joining their world close to ours, our hands easing around theirs in a ground truth, silenced in enough dusk, a spiraling artifact of lessons unlearned, leaving their lands behind to science.
It's an interesting piece, makes people think.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to try and do with that, really, because I think it is a big problem with global warming. And how did that piece react to you, London? What did you think of that one?
Yeah, I think it's a good piece to get people talking.
Yeah, well, I think that's the point behind it, really, is you want to get people discussing things like that. It's clearly changes in a way. Anyway, you, I presume, are we getting part 2 now?
Yeah.
So you were keeping the theme of cats and bears, aren't we?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Let us in, human, or else these claws will be the last thing you ever see, the cat said to my mind. I shook my head and backed away as Bernie alternated between running towards the door's back and then whimpering and running away. I wondered if the cats were talking to his mind too. I ran towards the kitchen at the foot of the house and saw more cats perched on the windowsill, all staring at me accusingly. Submit, human, or die, another cat transmitted into my mind. Submit or die, they all chanted. This form of communication was giving me a migraine. I fell to my knees and wept like a child. In fact, the last time I recall crying so much, I was a child and my cat had just died. If I had known the future, I wouldn't have been so upset about Fluffy's death. Fluffy was one of us. He was free, but you took ownership of him. Now we'll take ownership of you. At that moment, the kitchen window gave way to their claws. I know it shouldn't have been possible, but that doesn't change the fact that it happened anyway. Then all the cats, hundreds of them, charged through the window. I was covered in cats as they pinned me to the ground, and one shot something at me through its eyes. This one's chipped, it announced, as I pressed my hand to my sore neck. Then they all began arguing psychically over whose pet I would be. It felt a bit like when I was at school and the sports teacher would get two team leaders to choose their teams. I was always picked last. Then the team leaders would argue that they didn't want me on their team. Except now, I was the only choice, and the cats didn't want me. The big ginger stepped forwards and begrudgingly accepted me, then the others left. At least I got to stay in my house. That's good, I suppose. But I haven't seen Bernie in such a long time. He and all the other dogs were sent away. Nobody knows where. Nobody dares to ask. It took some getting used to, but I'm as happy as I could be under the circumstances. My owner, the ginger Tom, tickles my belly, and if I'm really good, he shares his food with me. I'm not allowed to sleep in my bed anymore, but I have a blanket on the floor, and it's not so bad. I don't have to work anymore either. It could be worse. Much worse. I've heard that the cat down the road has a house full of humans, and all they do is fight each other, and there's never enough food for them all. I have everything I need here. I just need to do everything my cat boss tells me.
Such a surreal piece, Amanda. Is that okay? I'm going to ask you, also not just two of us, ask me more what writing process is. How was that as a piece developed? Did it go the way you expected it, or did it go in a slightly different direction?
I can't remember. It just seemed that the most obvious thing to write given the prompt.
Yeah, it's quite an interesting piece, but I do like the surrealness at the ending of it, definitely as well. So, if you look back at it, I think it's pretty, even by your standards, that's a pretty surreal piece.
Yeah, I'd forgotten some of the bits in here, so when I was reading it the other month, it was a bit like, oh, I don't remember writing this bit.
Oh, brilliant. It's very, very good. So, okay, who's next?
You're next.
Yeah, this one actually, I read this at Speakeasy actually, the other week actually. And what I think is a bit unusual this one was, we did this one, and do you remember we had our workshops, didn't we? Of lockdown.
Yeah.
We'd, basically, long story short, when we went into lockdown, obviously, we were a number of friends, some of which we see less than others nowadays, don't we, as well?
Yeah.
So, various reasons. We ended up running a writing workshop on Zoom for, 18 months, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, wasn't it? And we ended up just frequently doing like prompts and stuff. And I don't know who came up with this prompt, whether it was me, you, Mike, or Reggie, Antonia, Mike Boo, or who knows what. By the way, this one came from this. I had to state, well, this one is not a true story. Okay. Bad friend. We were playing tag in Michael's backyard when unexpectedly his twin brother, Billy, ran in from the side gate. You okay? I said, you look like you've seen a ghost. Yeah, you could say that, he said, looking round. Could you do me a favour? I looked at him puzzled. Sure. Can you hold his carry bag for a moment while I wash my hands? What's in it? I've got to drop myself at Barry's. I'll be back in 2 minutes. Before he came back out the kitchen, the police arrived and arrested me for shoplifting. Mother never let me go and play there again after that.
Yeah, that's a true story.
I doubt it. No, not on my one. I would have got over a quarter for that one. Definitely has ever done that. We didn't say. Okay.
Okay, so my final piece is The Woman in the Song. This is a poem. A face is not a canvas for you to dictate a smile. Her eyes are not made to look only at you. A mouth made for talking, but you'll never listen. Imagining other uses for those lips, like you get to decide. Her ear isn't for you to watch as she walks away, or for tapping. The only riding she wants to do is out of here. She's not playing hard to get. The words and body screaming no, eyes searching for the exit. Her mind is her own, not for changing. Her actions might inconvenience you, but that's not her fault. She sways to the music of the song she's trapped in. This isn't her song. These aren't her words. She can change her own mind if she wants to. The same way you get to call her a good girl, then ask her to get nasty. Maybe it's time you decided what you want and release the woman from the song. You can keep the mind-numbing beat to yourself.
It's a really powerful piece, though. Now, I seem to recall this was wrote a while ago, this piece, wasn't it? Again,
Yeah.
so what made you write that song at that point, then?
It's just like a few different songs that like get on my nerves. Like there's certain lyrics in them.
Or is it a bit like, I know a song that
No.
gets on your nerves?
It's more like the sexist lyrics in them that just like assume that the woman in the song that they're singing about is there for them, and it doesn't matter what she wants because they'll change her mind.
Yeah, I think that's because I'm not going to say that's older songs. It's not, because there's quite a few modern songs are like that as well. So that's an excellent piece. Okay, my last piece.
Yeah.
This is a new one, this one. So I stumbled on this out. This is simply called Crap Comic. You suck, the woman shouted out to the comic. She clearly was very drunk. Everybody at the venue would have told you, right up to when the husband stood up and apologised. But the damage had already been done, and their comic laid into a bitter response. He was vicious, too vicious, some thought, when he responded to her. I suck, I fucking suck, of course I fucking suck. Then he carried on and shouted to her husband, Sir, can you please put your sock in her mouth and shut her up? He couldn't have predicted it when he came on stage, clearly in a bit of a mood. I asked, did anyone have a cigarette you could have afterwards before starting? You're having a good night. His set had been perhaps a bit bland for some. The police decided afterwards, but it was immaterial when he just launched in such a way more people came flooding in from the bar next door, like they'd heard what was being said, in particular from outside, and were left there stunned, and then she ran out the door crying. Her husband then stormed the set and told him what he thought of him. The comic then responded by stabbing.
Sounds like a fun night.
Anyway, right. I think that's just an example of how weird your brain operates sometimes, doesn't it? When writers like us do. Well,
Yeah.
so the story just told itself, really. So it's an odd one, that's all. But anyway, on a nice downbeat note, that's it for Storytime, episode 16. She is Amanda Nicholson.
He is Andy M.
We will be back in a couple of weeks' time for our April episode, of course. And I'm not going to reveal who the guest is yet. We do have a guest in mind. Hopefully, this lady will be able to make it. In the meantime, guys and girls,
Bye, everyone.
see you all next time.
Storytime with Andy and Amanda.